Hello and welcome to episode 5 of the Hardline Podcast. If you're a new listener, welcome. We're super glad to have you and that you tuned in. And if you're a returner, welcome back. For those of you who don't know, Hardline Athletics seeks to provide specialized sport training geared towards individuals and small groups looking to hone their skills while also providing ways to encourage athletes to make a positive impact on their communities wherever that may be. Today is a super special episode because Jessie and I are joined with a very special guest. And before I announce who she is, here is a little sneak peek of her career highlights. So she's a 4-time ACC Freshman of the Week in 2017, which is a first in program history. Absolutely wild. A 7 times ACC Player of the Week in 2018, 19, 20, and 21, which is another program record. An ABCA East Coast Region Freshman of the Year, 4 times All ACC First Team, also in 2018 to 21, 2 times ACC Player of the Year in 2019 and 20, Volleyball Magazine's All-American First Team in 2020, Senior Class Award, All-American First Team in 2021, 2 times AVC All-American Second Team in 19 and 20, and All-America First Team in 2021. She's a true California native, a true fifth-year player, and helped the Pittsburgh women's volleyball team reach its 6th consecutive NCAA tournament appearance, marking the program's longest NCAA postseason streak in history. We're so thankful to have you on this week. Welcome to the podcast, Kayla Lund.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm so excited and honored to be on with you guys.
Us too. We've gone back and forth for weeks, just like talking about how excited we are to get you on here. I am absolutely fangirling at this opportunity as well, because I know Jessie and I, over the past handful of years, we've grown to love just Pitt volleyball in general. You've kind of have been like our, I don't want to say underdogs, but like I am always low-key rooting for you guys these past 6 seasons, and seeing you guys progress and get better into the tournament has been an absolute blast to watch. So thanks again.
Yeah, thank you. It's been fun.
Awesome. Before we get into like the meat and potatoes of everything going on, I put together some like random icebreaker questions that some have stuff to do with volleyball. Others are just, whatever. Just kind of get to know you a little bit for our listeners. So the first one, indoor volleyball or outdoor volleyball?
I'm going to have to go with indoor because I'm way better at it. And just growing up playing indoor versus outdoor sports, I love, especially being in Pittsburgh, I love that no matter what the weather is, I can always play my sport and be comfortable inside.
Mm-hmm. If you have to play outdoor, being that you've spent time on both coasts, mm-hmm. Is it grass or sand?
Yeah, this is a tough one because I had never played grass before coming to Pittsburgh. I didn't even know, honestly, that it was like a thing and how big of a thing it really was. I'm better at grass than I am beach. Beach is so challenging, and I played a little bit in high school, a couple tournaments, and got my butt kicked. So I absolutely love playing sand and going home and playing sand for fun, mm-hmm. But grass, I like playing a little bit more competitively. I can hang a little bit better in grass. And I've played a couple tournaments here in Pittsburgh over the summers with one of my older teammates, Angela, and they have been so much fun and really fun for the two of us. And I've met so many people through it as well. So that's been really cool.
That's awesome. Grass does have like it's a really cool mix of like the sand, mm-hmm. of the game. You can get kind of funky with it, which is fun.
Agreed.
If you have to miss your serve, right? Like the situation, it's unavoidable. Would you rather miss the serve under the net or like 100 feet rocket out of bounds? No one's touching that sucker.
I'm going 100 feet out of bounds. Right? I feel like you have to soar it out of bounds if you're going to miss it. Because this is what I'm thinking. If you're going to miss out of bounds and wide or long, there's still, even if it's really far out, there's still like that tiny % chance that somebody could touch it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it probably won't be as embarrassing than if I were to go under the net. I think when somebody goes under the net, there's just a silence, especially if it's in game. There's just a silence of like, there's no way that just happened. In practice, you owe the team some donuts or something.
Yeah.
But going long, maybe you're just trying to show off how strong you are.
Right. That was my thinking exactly. Coffee or tea?
Coffee for sure.
Do you have like a favorite spot in like Pittsburgh that you're like, this is where I got to get my coffee hookup every morning?
Well, I am like a 5-minute walk at the most from Starbucks. So Starbucks is my go-to. I'm also 5 minutes from Dunkin'. So I love Dunkin'. But I think I use Starbucks more. But we also have a lot of really cute cafes around here too. We just got a new one. Crazy Mocha is on campus. The new one that we just got is Divi. I believe that's how you pronounce it. And then there's a lot of cool ones like down in Southside around, but I will go basic with Starbucks. And there's so many Starbucks around California. So that was like, we barely have any Dunkin'. Again, didn't really know what Dunkin' was before I came to Pittsburgh either. That just like is not a thing, but Starbucks was. So I'm going Starbucks. Yeah.
Nice. Awesome. What was the last song you listened to?
This morning and a lot of my mornings, I have been listening still to Adele's new album, 30. So it was this morning I just put on that album. I like love putting it on, making breakfast, and just, especially it's rainy today. So it fit the vibes.
Can't go wrong with Adele. Always a classic.
She's a great like life soundtrack.
So good. Like any mood, just put her on.
Yeah.
What is your favorite warm up or workout song, which we are going to add to our Hardline Spotify playlist?
Okay. I believe they're explicit, but we can probably find the clean versions to put on the playlist. Right. I have two. My like all time is, which I've just been listening to for so long, and the girls know this. It's How to Talk by Lil Uzi.
Oh,
and
sick.
Then, yes, I love. And then actually I think I have three. My second one is by Tory Lanez. It's Stupid Again. And that one just gets me hype. That's like a good one where like you feel like you're about to like run through a wall or like want to knock somebody out, or you need to feel good about yourself. And then my third, this is kind of a classic, and also it shouts out to California. It's California Love by Tupac. Me and my little brother, that's like our song. If I were to have, my dad played baseball, and I played a lot of softball. So I've always thought, okay, if I were to have a walkout song, it would definitely be California Love.
That's awesome. Very cool.
That is incredible. And I'm sorry, John, I know the lightning round is yours. I need to interject because How to Talk is my favorite too. And the beginning, the beginning where they play like the little like voicemail excerpt where it's like, you didn't come here for me, so let's talk about it. Yeah. So I had like the whole thing memorized, and I get stares when I go off on that.
Did you do that in club practice the other day?
Yes. And everyone was like, what? What's happening?
You need to come and hang out with our team. Our whole entire team loves it. And I think they started loving it because I was just playing it like so much that they had no other choice to love it in the locker room and in my car and stuff. But you would fit right in just singing it with us.
I'm there.
Score the invite already. Let's go.
Hey, you're already welcome.
And the interview. No, I'm kidding.
That's awesome. Last movie or TV show you watched?
I'm definitely way more of a TV person than I am movie, and which will kind of give me a lot of crap for, but I'm definitely one to just sit down. I'd rather watch like hours of TV than hours of a movie. Couple different shows. These are a lot of shows that I just came from back home, and my family and I, we love to like end the night all together watching like a TV show. So we're currently all watching 1883, which is kind of like this country western, really pretty brutal show, but you also get like some love stories. It's really good. It's really well done. And then also along those lines, like crime is Blue Bloods, which is
good show.
Like an NYPD show, which also it shows like the crime aspect, but then also has like some humor and family love and stuff like that. But then I'm definitely a sucker for anything like reality TV, romance, rom-com, anything like that. So my mom and I binge watched so much Love Island when I was home. So definitely a lot of stuff like that, or like Too Hot to Handle, things like that. I'm kind of on rotation with right now.
Nice.
Yeah. That's great variety. You got everything covered there.
That's really good. I watched one of those romance ones recently where like they couldn't see each other. Was it Love at First Sight?
Oh, Love is Blind.
Love is Blind.
Love is Blind. That was intriguing. That was crazy.
It is. It really is.
Favorite place to visit or to go on Pitt's campus?
I just think I have to say the Fitzgerald Fieldhouse. It really is one of my favorite spots, and not just because that's where I am every single day, but that's where like so much of my life here is, and where so many like just amazing memories have been made in that place. Like completely ignoring like just being up in there every day, but just so many amazing memories have been made, not only in that gym, but in the locker room, in the training room, in the weight room with so many like amazing people. And it's definitely my favorite place. That's like my second home up there. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. How about your favorite place back home?
This might be cheesy or kind of lame to say, but it's like actually my home. Mm-hmm. I love going home. I'm such a family person, and I don't get to go home that much, so it's kind of contradicts itself. But when I am home, it's just so special, and so I just love being home when my family's there and back with my animals. And then with California in general, I love the beach, so it's like a 30-minute drive for us, so it's pretty easy. And then one of my favorite restaurants, also a favorite place to go. It's like a tiny little restaurant, kind of a hole in the wall, but it's called Magpies. And my family and I, it's like a tradition. We go there after church every Sunday. So it's also a special place.
That's awesome.
Very cool.
I feel that like favorite place, back home being your home. I vibe with that just because I remember going to college and then now not living at home anymore. There's just something special about just going back to mom and dad's and reconnecting there. So
I agree.
That's awesome. If you've had one yet, what was your first job?
I have not technically had a real job. I did a lot of babysitting.
Oh, that counts.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
That is hard.
A lot of babysitting, stuff like that for family and friends and stuff. And since coming to college, I do a lot of dog sitting. I'm actually currently dog sitting for a friend. The dog's like at the end of my bed. She's super cute. But awesome. I do a lot of dog sitting. I love animals, and I wish that I could have my own dog right now, but I'm just not in the place to have enough time to take care of one. So when I have the chance to dog sit, I definitely take up on it when I have the time.
That's awesome.
That's
my
so
dog meanders. What'd you say, Jesse?
That is so responsible. Like the awareness. I don't have the time. Like, would love to own 70 dogs. I have one, and I work from home, and that's hard. So
it's definitely a commitment. And you see a lot of kids get dogs in college. I've been around a lot of friends that get dogs, and the dogs kind of just turn out sometimes a little crazy or just not as trained or not as loved as they probably should be, because when you're an athlete, you don't have all the time in the world going from classes and stuff like that. So whenever I have weekends off, or especially now that I'm not training full time with the team, I have days where I can just be like, yep, bring your dog over, go on vacation.
Perfect balance.
Yeah.
Describe your perfect day.
Yeah. I kind of went back and forth, but I think it's a simple day. It's a simple day. If I were here in Pittsburgh, it would be wake up probably around 8:30, somewhere in there. Stay in bed for maybe like an hour, maybe put on a show, something like that. Just chill out for an hour, probably watch some TikToks, get up, make some breakfast, a coffee, and then probably after that, it would be maybe go to Starbucks or even just hang out here, get some homework done. And then go to practice, work out, be with the girls, come home. For a perfect day, I would not have class. I do love my classes, but I wouldn't have class. Come home, make dinner, and probably just relax for the rest of the night. Either maybe hang out with some teammates or most likely hang out with my fiance if he's not working. Nice. And then kind of put on some TV and hit the hay, do it all over again. Very simple day.
That's great. You mentioned your fiance. How long have you all been engaged?
We engaged in November. It's only a couple months.
Nice.
Congratulations.
Yes, thank you. He wrestled here at Pitt, so that's how we met. He still lives in Pittsburgh. He is a professional wrestler. So he trains here. Yeah, it's awesome. He's doing great. He's loving it. But so it kind of works out. He's still training here and competing. He'll travel to compete around and stuff, but he still lives in Pittsburgh, and I'm obviously still here. So it's nice that while he can like still pursue his dreams and while I'm still finishing school, that we don't have to be so far apart yet.
Awesome. That's great. Last one before we dive in. Describe yourself using one word only and why.
This is a tough one. I think I have very conflicting words. One side is I definitely have like a very goofy, lighthearted side. But at the other time, in like a certain sense, and especially with volleyball, I am like very not goofy and very like, this is how we're doing things. This is my mind is set type person. So I'm kind of somewhere in between there, happy medium. And then this is funny that you asked this question. So I don't know if I would give myself this word because I feel like this would sound like very self-centered of me to give myself this word. But for senior night, Coach Fisher, our Pittsburgh head coach, spoke to like the crowd like about each of us and each of us seniors. And to do so, he gave us each a word that described us. And his word for me was love. And the whole crowd was like, oh, but it's so, I do see it in the sense of like, I love everything that I'm doing. I have loved Pittsburgh with like my whole heart. I love the team. I love volleyball. I love these people. So a lot of my life, I do try to do things that I genuinely love. And I try to surround myself with people that I love and love them to the best of my ability. So that's a word that I think ever since I knew that about myself, but ever since you kind of told me that, I was like, yeah, I try to fill as many people as possible with the love that I can.
That's great. And I don't think that sounds self-centered at all.
I think it's perfect that you were recently given a word for the benefit of this interview. I mean,
right. That's why when you asked the question, I was like, oh my God, I have to tell that story because it was cool of Fish to even do that for like us seniors, but it does. I love that word as well. So
that's nice. Very cool. Very cool.
That's great. So, and then that kind of wraps up our icebreaker. And I love just doing like, some serious questions like that. I think just beyond the answers themselves, they just give us like a peer, into your life. And we can glean more from that than just the answers and just the way you give them and the places that you would be and choose to be. I think that's just really cool.
Yeah, they were fun.
Like every episode that we do, we always, when it's just Jesse and I, we plug a local business. We would love you to, if you wouldn't mind, plugging a local charity or cause that has been impactful to you in lieu of, just a local business here in the Lehigh Valley. So do you have anything you want to share with us?
Yes. So the cause that I'm going to be plugging is Daniel Strong. A little bit of background. Daniel is a little boy. He's about 6 years old now. He just had a kidney transplant. And I have known Daniel since he was a couple months old, like 1 year old. And Daniel is the son of our strength and conditioning coach, Mary Beth. And so when Daniel was born, he had kidney issues and they knew that he would eventually need a kidney transplant. However, within the past year, they figured out, okay, it's time. We need to get him on a list to try to find a donor. And so this past year has been kind of a whirlwind. It happened way faster than they thought. They actually matched kidneys with our one of our Pittsburgh athletic trainers. And so kind of just a crazy story that they matched together, both being so close in each other's lives. And so Molly is the athletic trainer's name who gave Danny her kidney. They had surgery around Christmas time, actually a little bit before Christmas. So there's a GoFundMe. I'll send it to you guys and you guys can whatever, plug the link or anything. But we have all been rallying behind Danny and he's doing great since surgery and he's been an absolute trooper. The surgery was a success and he's just been recovering ever since. And they had, as many obstacles as you could have had with COVID, as you can imagine. And so that was crazy, but they're doing really well. And that all happened right before we went into the tournament this year. It's kind of around that time. So that was just another crazy aspect for us. All of us older girls on the team grew up with Danny. He would always be in our weightlifting room with us. Mary Beth would always bring him around ever since he was in diapers. We would like push him up on the the pull-up bar and he would be doing it, or we would give him the little tiny 1 pound dumbbells. He'd be curling it just in his diaper, running around. So we've grown up with him. They're at every single one of our games, obviously. And so that cause definitely means not only a lot to myself, but also a lot to our whole entire team and program and university.
That's awesome. That it's so cool to see just a cause like that one just unite and expand past just like wins and losses of individual sports teams. It really creates an awesome family dynamic and a great support system there. So that's awesome. So we will absolutely plug Daniel Strong. We'll have the list for the GoFundMe. If you feel like giving, please go and do so. That's incredible. So thanks for sharing that.
Of course.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right. So we'll start to kind of dive in. You mentioned growing up in California. California does have a reputation for being a volleyball hotbed. So would you be able to share kind of what your initial exposure to volleyball looked like and maybe how it evolved?
Yeah, so my path to volleyball wasn't as forward as a lot of other sports that I played. Volleyball was the last sport that I played, actually. And so my mom played volleyball at the University of Notre Dame. And so with her being my mom, you would have thought that I was in it right away. But my parents both were collegiate athletes and successful athletes. And so I love the way that they raised me and my brothers in this aspect of they never really pushed any specific sports on us. They totally let us try anything that we had interest in. They would let us fall into it and kind of kept their biases to their sports for the most part kind of to the side. And so I played just about every single other sport besides volleyball until I was in about 5th grade. And in 5th grade, one of our really close family friends, they have a daughter that's a year older than me who was already playing club volleyball. They reached out to my parents oh, hey, our daughter is going to this just little volleyball practice later. It's just for fun. And by this time in 5th grade, I was starting to grow. So they were let's throw Kayla in there. She plays volleyball at recess and lunch. Do you want Kayla to come with us? And so I went and I had so much fun. And then the next day, my parents get a call from the club that we went to. The club is no longer around. It was called Sport Shack. And at the time, it was like a really successful club for like the 18s team. They had won like the Open championships and stuff like that. At that point, we had no idea what any of that even meant. But the club is unfortunately no longer around. But the next day, my parents get a phone call from one of the club coaches. And I was in 5th grade. So I was like 10 or 11 at that time. And the 13s coach called my parents. And they're like, hey, like your daughter did great yesterday. We want her to join our team. My parents were like, what are you talking about? Like that was just, they thought it was just for fun. And it was actually a club tryout. And so we're like, oh my gosh. Okay. So then they were like, hey, do you want to keep doing this? Did you have a lot of fun? Do you want to add this kind of to the sports? And so I was like, yeah, I loved it. I definitely want to do it. And at the time I was just a setter. And so because I was so young playing up, I was then shorter. And so they were like, let's just put you as a setter. You're athletic. And I rode the bench for like my whole entire first and probably second year. I didn't start playing until my second year with that team. Our main setter got hurt. So then I was just thrown in there. My nickname was Little One by my coach was Marcio Sicoli, who was also Misty May Trainer's beach coach at the time. So I was kind of, crazy. Isn't it? It was like just thrown into this crazy environment and like loved every second of it. He would sometimes have to leave to go to like tournaments with them, and he would bring back like beach sports bras, and we would have serving competitions to try to, if you hit, like he would lay out their like sports bras, their bathing suits, and if you served it and like hit them, we got to keep it. So I got one of those. It was just like crazy first year of experience of volleyball. But so then that club was about like 45 minutes away from where we lived. So after I played on that team for like 2 years, a lot of my cousins were playing at a club called San Gabriel, which was like 10 minutes away from us. So then I decided to switch clubs. When I was we knew that this was a tryout at least. So when I went to these tryouts, my mom came with me, and she's whatever. She's like, okay, go have fun. She's like watching with the rest of the parents. And all of a sudden she sees me going to like the hitting lines. Like I'm going to hit in the hitting lines. And she then like, I'm just hitting. I'm not setting anymore. And I can't even recall, unfortunately, like my feelings during that. All I remember being was like, yeah, that looks like fun. I want to jump and hit the ball. So I'm like trying, then next thing I know, I'm trying out as a hitter. And my mom during water break, she's like, Kayla, what are you doing? Like you're a setter. What are you doing? And I'm like, my mom was an outside hitter. So I think that might've had some pull on me, like being a little girl. And so I was like, yeah, just hitting looks like so much fun. I want to try it. So my mom was like, all right, whatever, you're young, go have fun. And so from then on, I was an outside hitter. So that's kind of how my volleyball exposure really started. But before that, it was, I played every single other sport before it. And then I had to drop some just because I loved it so much. It came down to softball and volleyball. And I broke my dad's heart when I stopped playing softball to continue playing volleyball like pretty much full time.
So when did you stop playing softball? Like at what point? Was that 5th grade or later?
No, I stopped playing once I got to high school.
Okay.
So once I got to high school, I was like, nope, it's just volleyball. Nothing else is as much fun to me anymore. Everybody will tell you this, like my parents, but I was definitely better at softball at that point than I was at volleyball. And so they were like, are you sure you want to do this? Like your volleyball, it's fun and all, but you're definitely like more gifted in softball at that point. But I think it turned out pretty good. And I think they would agree with that.
Yeah, I think you made the right choice.
That's so funny.
Any context or ever seeing you play softball just based on volleyball career alone, that should be a pretty solid validation.
The advice, like, Kayla, you kind of accidentally started playing volleyball. You're much better at softball. You sure you want to do this?
Totally. It was so funny. My parents were like, yeah, so if you want to play, go for it. You're on a team, so here we go. It's funny.
That's awesome. That's such a friend move too.
Right. Totally.
Just to like not tell you it's a tryout and just drag it. It's just an open gym. You're just for fun. Just come on.
Yeah. And it's my dad's best friend, and they have older daughters than I, and they all played volleyball. And he played football in college and is always like a coach. And so I think he kind of saw, he was like, we have to somehow get Kayla into competitively playing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like friends are kind of always the, without realizing the spark or the ignition on a lot of probably new things in our lives, whether they stay or go. In your case, this stayed, which is fortunate for all parties involved. So what about so once you kind of realized that volleyball was something that you wanted to pursue, what did that kind of look like once you got to the point of looking for colleges? Like, what was kind of, you obviously decided that was something that you wanted to pursue at that level. So what was kind of most important to you in that search?
Yeah. So recruiting and going through the recruiting process is hard. It's taxing. It can be tedious, but it's also really exciting. And I think the tedious part about it is that we're so young going through the process of, I don't even know what college volleyball really is. I don't even know who's the best team, things like that, until you really dive into it. And then you're like, okay, well, even if this team is better than this team, I don't prefer talking with them, or stuff. I don't like where they are, things like that. So it's just so much to consider when you're so young and you have no idea even what you're going to eat for dinner that night, let alone like where you're supposed to end up for the next 4 years, and be surrounded by people pretty much like 10 hours a day, every single day of the week. So it's a big decision. And my mom helped me so much through the recruiting process. She took on like full mom mode, and totally, because I was like, I'm just having fun playing. I don't get, this is when I was pretty young. This is when I was probably like a freshman in high school, and I was starting to get recruited, when I was just like, I'm just having fun playing. It's kind of crazy to even think that this could take me to college. And then as I got older, I definitely took more initiative in it. But it's a hard process. And the thing that I would say about it is I actually committed pretty late, which now I know is getting pushed back with rules and stuff, which I think is good. But a lot of my teammates and friends and stuff like that committed when they were sophomores. I committed when I was a junior, which still seems like very early to decide where you're going to school, but it was considered kind of on the later side at that point, which I think actually helped me because I took my time deciding and stuff like that. I wasn't that highly recruited as a player. I wasn't what a lot of coaches were looking for. I was denied by a lot of like top schools. And that's hard too when you're a young girl and you're like, oh, these big programs don't want me. What am I doing? All this stuff. So I was constantly a player that was too short. It didn't jump high enough. I wasn't a good enough passer at that point to a lot of schools. But the schools that it came down to were the schools that absolutely believed in me from the very, very start. And one of those was Pittsburgh. And being from my tiny little California bubble, I had no idea where Pittsburgh even was. I was like, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where is that on the map? Like, couldn't even tell you. So my family and we did like a little East Coast visit, and we were kind of like, I had been talking to Pittsburgh a lot since the beginning. They fish immediately. And at the time, the recruiting coordinator was Craig Dyer, who just got hired at Notre Dame, which is so awesome for him. But we had been talking for a long time, and I was like, okay, we're going to go see it. And immediately through the recruiting process, I would just say that go to the schools. And I think you will kind of get that feeling once you're actually with the people in person. versus just talking on the phone or doing Zoom. I know it's really hard now with COVID. Luckily, recruits can start to go places now, which I think is really important. But just once you start talking to the coaches and the players on campus and in their like kind of zones, I just had like you just kind of know. It's like a gut feeling where I was just talking to them and I was like, these people are just awesome. I can already tell. And not to like make any other program seem worse or like, oh, they weren't whatever. They weren't the fit for me. And so I just knew that talking to coaches here at Pitt, they loved Pittsburgh so much, and they didn't have that big of a name yet, but the things that they preached were exactly what you have seen come true. Do I think that maybe they wanted it to, or thought that it would come true for them like this fast? I'm not quite sure, but it did. And I think that's just because of how much they believed in their program and like the line that it was on and how much it was going to just take off. And it's done exactly that. And when I spoke with them, you totally believed it. And you could tell that they weren't just saying it to say it to try to get you to come to campus or to come to the school and play for them. It was like, oh no, we believe in you as a player. I don't care what any other coach has said about you or what the things that you are not. You are so much more than what you are not. And we want to like take those and just completely just help you get better and help the program get better. So the recruiting process is crazy. Long story long. The recruiting process is just crazy. And it's really hard. But I think for the one advice that I can give to players going through it when it's really tedious is to try to get to campus and really feel, and you'll kind of have that sense. You'll know where your heart is tugging you and where you should be.
That sounds like the embodiment of the if you know saying, like it's one of those things. It's almost like a chemical reaction, I feel like, in some ways. So going from like high school and club programs to a Division I collegiate program, how do you feel you were prepared? Like, did you feel equipped, or were you like, whoa, baby, this is kind of like a shock, or whether it be physical or mental?
I was definitely the whoa, baby, this is a shock. I was so scared coming in, which I think anybody, whether you're going to be a collegiate athlete or not, going to college, especially if you're moving away, it's scary no matter what. And so then I'm thinking, okay, now I have to go and perform and kind of live up to these expectations that the coaches have thought about me through club and what the players have heard about me. So I try not to let that much get to me. But what kind of impacted me the most was the speed of the game and kind of the intensity of the game. When I got to Pitt, I was holding up practicing pretty well. And for our first tournament, I was the starting outside. And we went, I believe, our first tournament was at University of Washington. So at that point, Washington's like Pac-12 powerhouse. We are not a powerhouse yet. We are just a little ACC school trying to, change our name. And I go in there and I just get absolutely demolished. I get blocked straight down just about every single attempt. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm getting blocked every time. And then I start just soaring the ball out of bounds. It was just I get yanked from pretty early on. Fish was like, oh my gosh, this girl is struggling. You can just see the fear like in my eyes. So, and you can just kind of see like, oh, this, you could see probably the potential, because I didn't really have that fear of like tipping or roll. I was just like, I'm going for it. And if I get blocked straight down, I get blocked straight down. But you could also see that kind of the reckless side of that, where it was like, this girl's costing us a lot of points right now. And she is not like matching up very well with these like 6'4" girls. And so my first games and my first couple months of season were just so off and on. And some days you would totally see like the potential that I had. And other days it was like, Kayla, what are you doing? Like, you are just being so reckless, things like that. And so the shock that I had was with in club, I could go up and swing at a double block, and the block probably it wasn't as big. They weren't up as high. They weren't as well formed. And then in club, if I got it past the block, it probably wasn't going to be dug every single time. Whereas then you get to college. If you have a perfectly formed block, good luck getting around it. And if you get around it, you're probably going to get dug up. And so that was the biggest adjustment for me, of being like in club, being like the go-to, you're going to get a kill most of the time. Absolutely, like rage swinging on balls. You probably only have one block up most of the time, to then going to college and just being housed or dug up and like making me look like a little girl just about every time for the first couple months. And so that is where I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. I haven't been pushed like this before. I haven't been like taken out and put on the bench before. So it was a lot. And so that was definitely the biggest adjustment for me. But oh my gosh, did it help me so much. And what I would say to like club players also is, don't be afraid in club to continue to take those risks and absolutely go for it. I am like the biggest advocate for like not tipping or roll shotting when you can. So unless you absolutely have to, tip or roll shot, absolutely go for it, because you'll learn to kind of that you can go for any kind of set. You'll learn like, hey, this set is a crazy out of system set, and I'm not going to get the kill, but I know that I can maybe hopefully get them out of system rather than just sending a tip or a roll shot. And so that's what I would definitely give like for biggest piece of advice for club girls or guys that are wanting to go and play at the next level as an undersized, low jumping outside hitter. That's what I am. But it was definitely adjustment. And then, for being a freshman, you throw the college athletics into that. You throw being all the way across the country into that. And the first couple months were tough. But then I had kind of an aha moment where everything just kind of clicked. And you see that a lot with freshmen that find success their freshman year. See the first couple months, just so much is thrown at them, so much knowledge, so many new things thrown at them. And then you kind of see that moment where it's like, okay, so much craziness has been going on, but finally, like I have been able to retain it. I have been able to actually understand it. And I'm like actually able to act on it now. We saw that with our freshman, Rachel Fairbanks, who started playing like right before the tournament. And you kind of saw her, you could see all the potential. And you saw her struggling and trying and struggling and trying and failing in practices and trying again and grinding it out. And it's frustrating. It's rewarding. It's all the things. And then you saw that where it totally clicked. And then she did so amazing leading up into the tournament, where you just saw that, like that composure that you finally gain when all of that woe is finally like calmed. And so that was my experience. And you see that definitely a lot, I think.
Yeah, that whoa baby to that aha moment. That timeline's gonna look different for everyone, but it'll happen, is what you're saying, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
And
I'm gonna start using rage swinging.
I was just gonna say that. I'm absolutely using that, I think, daily.
Yeah.
I do that to my whole life.
Right. Just like I'm just raging right now. No, we are definitely, we use rage swinging a lot. Reckless, we use reckless swinging a lot, kind of the same thing, but yeah, rage swinging is definitely a lot that I do, and I still to this day have to control my rage swinging, because I think there's also two different kinds of rage swinging. There's like a rage swinging of like this whatever, like this ref just made a bad call or somebody's like talking through the net kind of thing. Yeah, that's like that's a good rage swinging, because I'm like, oh, there's no way you just said that. Like, watch what I can do kind of rage swinging, which I love and I'm here for. But the rage swing that I was referring to that's I don't recommend is when you're like mad at yourself.
Mm.
Then you try to like compensate by hitting it 100 times harder. And then you're just absolutely going to hit it at the bottom of the tape or out of bounds or get blocked straight down because you're just trying to hit the ball straight down pretty much.
Sure.
I love the fearlessness that goes into it though. Like you said about like girls should learn to just like don't tip and roll, just keep banging away, play like you're 7 foot tall and
Totally.
like don't be intimidated by what's in front of you and just like channel that rage swinging and just go. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of value to that. I think like tipping and rolling is something that the real knowledge with that is contextual and it's situational. I mean, the swinging reps against well-formed blocks, I mean, there's so many ways you can get the outcome that you want that are different. You know, like I think most people who don't play volleyball could learn to tip within 30 minutes, whereas, you know, someone taking those kinds of risks and big rage swings, you know, that's a lot more reps behind that. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
You mentioned that when Pitt was recruiting you, that it was kind of like, who? And I think that's so cool. And I mean, you didn't say that, I'm saying that. So, but like to kind of compare that being their, not reputation, but what you thought. And then, you know, through no coincidence, you know, now this many years later, they're considered a volleyball school now, in my opinion. And I would not have thought that as someone who is a Pennsylvania native. I would not have thought that 10 years ago. So once again, no coincidence with your timeline being there. And in that timeline, you know, we did see the COVID-19 pandemic come into play. John mentioned when he was introducing you that you were a true 5-year player. A lot of players got that 5th-year option. So what was it like kind of having to lead a team, since you were at that point in your career, through something like that, where it's a little bit more external to the volleyball world?
Yeah, it was really special. It's obviously really unique in that not a lot of players are going to have the experience to go through what we went through with COVID and playing during COVID and having the option to have that 5th year. It has absolutely been like the greatest thing. If there's one good thing to come from COVID, I've said this, if there's one good thing going to come from COVID, it's that selfishly that I got a 5th year and that a lot of other athletes are getting 5th years. And, you know, there's 2 sides to that because I do think that it hurts younger players that are being recruited but whatever, that's a whole nother thing. So I feel for them, but at the same time, it was like one of the greatest things that happened. And when I made the decision to take the 5th year, it was before, like kind of secretly, before we didn't announce it or anything until after the season was over, but we definitely made the decision before the end of my real senior year, before we made the Elite 8 run. And I think it's kind of crazy because at that point I made it during prime COVID. We had no idea what our tournament run was going to look like. And then I think if I didn't have that option and I finished at the Elite 8, I would have been so satisfied. I mean, not so satisfied because we obviously want to go farther, but our run that year was historical. But when I had that option to go back before that even happened, I was like, oh, absolutely. I'm not ending my career during COVID. Who knows if the tournament's even going to happen at that point? I was like, I'm all in. And that was kind of special to kind of hold with me that, okay, I made this decision before I kind of knew that our potential of the tournament, how good that we could be. And then that just, I think, really motivated me through like, okay, we are as good of a team as we know we are in the practice gym. We proved it then in the tournament. And so then to come back, it was like, oh yeah, now we can do even more. Now we have that kind of that tournament under our belt. We know what we're capable of, that we're capable of more. So it was really an easy decision for me to take my 5th year at Pitt. It wasn't even like a question. It was it was more of a question of, hey, are the coaches going to take me again and deal with me for a whole entire year? But at the end of the day, it does come down to administration as well. If the administration will allow that many athletes to be on the team, and so then the coaches then have to go to administration and be like, hey, can you let we had 3 girls return and transfer in. Will you let 4 girls come in and use their 5th year? So it was kind of a whole group decision. Luckily for us, our administration is amazing, and they obviously let it happen. But so it was an easy decision to do it, and that decision kind of definitely motivated me throughout that 5th year, because it was a grind. I would be lying if I didn't say that it wasn't hard. It was really hard. We played 3 seasons back to back to back with pretty much no rest. We played in the fall of that year as one of the only conferences that even did play. Then we went straight into that spring season. And so we played for that whole entire year competing straight in COVID. So it was high stress. We had no idea if we would practice that next day, if we would play. So it's constantly so much of a mental toll. It also, there's kind of 2 sides always, but with that, it was such a mental toll. Like, oh my gosh, the state of the world is depressing right now. Like, it is depressing. I think everybody felt that individually. The one good thing that we had was that because we did play, we at least had that outlet. We had something that we could focus on, where we could put all of our energy into. And so that was a good thing, but at the same time, exhausting. And then, so we played that fall season, that spring season, and then we go straight back into season this fall. And I think all of us 5th year players were definitely feeling it this fall with the tax that it took on our bodies, because with regular or more normal cases of 5th years, you have that either, if it's a developmental year or if it's an injury year redshirt. Whereas us, we were grinding it out for 5 years straight. And so, it was a blessing, but it was also hard. But so much of that hard was obviously well worth it in the end. So it's a really unique case, and it's something that I'm so happy that I had the opportunity to do, and about the dream of going far into the tournament. So it was a really cool experience and unique, like I said.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned injuries and how those can kind of, spur on like redshirt years and things like that. And I know that you had an injury back in 2018. And then I know that was like towards the end of postseason in 2018. And then I believe this past season, I want to make sure I got my stats right here. So you had an injury. I believe it was like the last 1 or 2 regular season matches, and then the first round as well. And then your return was your full return. I think they refer to the UMBC first round game as like a cameo. But your full return against Penn State, you had you just went crazy. I mean, you had like 21 kills, you hit like 421, 10 digs, 2 aces, 4 block assists, and you guys beat Penn State in 4. So I know with injuries typically looked at as being physical, but you having a 2018 injury probably in the back of your head, how did you kind of navigate that, like mentally, like from a mindset?
Yeah, 2018 injury was heartbreaking because it happened in the first round of the tournament, and we had a really good team that year. And then the second round, then we got upset by Michigan, and I wasn't able to play. And that was really heartbreaking. And I tried my absolute hardest to play that game. I severely rolled my ankle in the first round, and I tore just about everything in there. And I should send you guys pictures. It's disgusting. But basically that next day, we knew that I got an X. The Pitt medical is amazing. I got an X-ray right in the middle of the game. Whatever, they take me out. I get an X-ray right in the back. They know that it's not broken. So then Kate, my trainer, love her dearly, we were like, okay, what are we gonna do now? Like, how much are we gonna push this? How badly do you want to play? And it was obviously for me as an athlete, it's like, yeah, I'm doing everything that I absolutely can to play. And Kate's like, great, I'm on board. Let's do it. So that night, whatever, icing all night long. I get sent home with a machine. My mom is there. She was obviously there for the tournament. And so the next morning, wake up early. You're supposed to be, well, we do play Michigan that night. And so I'm in the training room by like 8. And from 8 until 15 minutes left of warm-ups, I'm in the training room rehabbing the whole entire time. We're going through like different rotations. We have this laser treatment, we're icing, we're massaging, we're running on the Alter G for the whole entire day. I went to go get lunch with my family for an hour, and then I was back in there. And so that whole entire day, I'm doing absolutely everything. I can barely walk, but we're just trying to get everything basically to keep it moving so that it wouldn't stiffen up and just absolutely get huge, bigger than it was. And so we're just everything. And so then we have the Alter G, which is the for those that don't know, it's the anti-gravity running treadmill. And so I was doing so much on that, just whatever, keeping it moving. And right before our 15-minute warm-up, right, so 15 minutes before game time, I finally run out there. And we have me pretty much like casted up in the kind of tape job and ankle brace. I had to get a pair of shoes. I got one shoe for my right ankle that was like 2 sizes bigger so that everything could fit in the shoe. And so I'm wearing 2 different shoes and whatever. I run out there. I do the warm-ups. My first swing is like amazing. And we're all like, oh my gosh, she can play. And then as time went on throughout the warm-ups, I was jumping about this high. I'm biting my tongue just in pain. And so then after that, all the doctors were there on the sideline watching me. They immediately were like, you're done. So Kate walks me out into the tunnel to go change and get boot and crutches, which I was like, I'm not wearing the crutches. I'm not doing all this stuff. But at that moment, I totally had a breakdown because with Kate, and I was like, oh my gosh, I did everything. She's like, I know. She's like, we did everything, but like, it's whatever. So that was heartbreaking in itself because so with that, then going into this year, at the end of the year, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have another injury that I cannot end my career not playing. I cannot. And talk about it now, but I had an ab tear. And so just so excruciating. I just played for the first time yesterday, and I'm sitting here. I'm actually so sore because I couldn't play, and so it was really, really hard sitting out. Leading into the tournament, I did not practice at all. I never played. The first time playing full out was before Penn State. Then going to the next games, didn't practice again, and then I had a bit of a lackluster from then on offensive performance in the tournament, but just basically wasn't practicing, dealing with the pain, on a lot of drugs, all this. I had to wear this like huge corset thing, like a weird wrap around my body. It was crazy. So, but in the back of my head was that injury and just knowing like I have to give it all that I have. I don't care about how much I'm tearing right now, like how much of my body is being torn with every swing. Like this is kind of the last go of it. I came back for a 5th year. There's no way that I'm ending like this. And so that was definitely a big motivation, but mentally injuries are so tough. Like, volleyball and sports athletics is so much of our safe space for people that then with injuries, when that's taken away, that totally just puts like a whole rock in your whole lifestyle. The biggest advice that I can give with injuries is there's so much learning that you can do off the court. You don't have to be playing to learn and get better at volleyball. And so when we're injured at Pitt, we barely even talk about it. We don't like talking about it at all because you can still, let's say you have an ankle injury, you tore your ACL, anything that you can still sit on a box and pass balls. You can still sit on a box and dig balls. You can still sit at practice and watch and do things like that. You can do walkthroughs. You can serve standing up, things like that. So my piece of advice, if you are injured there, you don't just have to, this is how it was in club. Like if you had some kind of injury, you're just there watching, you're keeping score or you're shagging balls. There's still so much that you can do when you're injured to still be involved in practice. Especially if you're in a boot, you can walk around and just whatever, like get low and dig some balls, have your coach hit balls at you, or stand on a box and swing off of a box, things like that. So mentally that helps a lot too, having that kind of switch, knowing like, okay, I can't perform to 100% of my ability right now, but what am I going to do to get better, to help the team, to help myself, to all of that stuff.
That's awesome. John and I have been talking to a lot of the athletes we work with about having an edge and being the person that like goes above and beyond and like taking initiative. And I think that that is so echoed in what you're saying. I mean, the betterment beyond physically being on the court is so important. And almost even more important is having the initiative to do that and not being told to.
Totally.
So that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Wow, I really liked that a lot. So you mentioned kind of the mental piece. We just talked about the mental piece with injuries. I think another big mental piece of sport is kind of burnout, I guess is the best way to reference it. And I know there are some people that, you know, they identify a certain sport as their passion. But every now and then there's going to be like waves of that burnout feeling or that like questioning feeling. Have you ever experienced that, or have you ever had like your love of the game kind of waver? And if so, what was maybe a way that you were kind of able to mitigate that?
Yeah. I definitely have. And I think it's okay to have those feelings. And the way that we kind of, you know, this is something that you hear it all the time about, like the D1 grind or the collegiate athlete grind, but it totally is a grind. And so no matter what division you're at, or if you're in high school, anything, it can definitely be a grind. And so burnout is real and it totally can happen, and it can go kind of through waves as well. So what we talk a lot about to kind of try to combat that is doing things kind of, we call it like a rest versus like refreshing. And so during season and just throughout life, we try to prioritize, okay, right now I'm resting, and recharging. Sorry, that's the word, recharging. And so resting might be like I'm going to take an hour or two to watch my Netflix, but I'm pretty sure that watching Netflix for like 2 hours isn't going to necessarily like recharge me. And so we have ways in which, and you kind of have to go through your own journey and finding your recharging ways of things that make you feel rested, but also bring kind of that joy into life. And so, like could be something as going on a walk on your off day. It could be something as a lot of athletes, if you have any kind of faith, you can resonate. Maybe it's doing like a devotional. Maybe it's going to church. Things that aren't taxing on your body, but are making you feel better. And so maybe it's listening to a podcast. Maybe it is, you know, maybe if you have animals, playing outside with your animals, things like that, you know, you are resting, but you are recharging. And so we try to differentiate that, because a lot of times we think like, oh my gosh, I'm so exhausted. I'm so guilty of this. All that I want to do sometimes is just crawl into bed and watch Netflix like all day long. But is that really going to make me feel better? Probably not. You know, like actually feel better. Probably not. So trying to find that balance of like, yeah, I'm going to watch Netflix for a couple hours. And then I'm going to do something that recharges me. And so I think that that's really important. And then on the other side of that is having those days of rest and recharging. Like you don't have to go play volleyball every single day. You will probably get burnt out, but doing things that can make you better at volleyball every single day are still, possible. So we also kind of like to say, whatever percentage that you have that day, give that. If it is 60%, you better give 100% of that 60%. If you're feeling 100%, give 100% and help fill up other people's 60s, 50s, 20s, whatever. So, burnout is definitely real, and it's hard, and it's kind of an individual journey that you kind of have to figure out what works for me when I'm feeling like this is getting super tedious, when this is getting super exhausting, when this is super hard. Maybe you need to call somebody. Maybe you need to, just find those ways to recharge has been really helpful for me throughout the years.
I really resonate with that as well, especially, being a collegiate athlete, you have your academics, you have your sport, which we've talked about it being a grind. You are constantly pouring yourself out in so many different directions constantly. Mm-hmm. And that recharge, my wife and I, we always say, hey, we got to do something to fill ourselves up. We got to get filled up again. And that's been it's cool that you mentioned that. It's always coming about. We try to say we got to go and remind ourselves of our why again. Yeah. And have, like, whether it be something encouraging or positive, or just that realigns us with our purpose, reminds us of our why, that we can then go back out into our, our little bubble of our world and fill people back up again and outpour more. And then, that's really cool.
I'm so glad you said the why, because having a why is so, so important. And it is what will get you through. And recalling those why is what will get you through when you feel like you can't get through something. So I love that you mentioned that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I think a big takeaway that I am hearing from what you're saying too is, I think there is a misconception that burnout is permanent. And I think with what you're saying, these are all things that you can kind of activate when you need to, because those waves, those feelings can be temporary. They usually are temporary. And you mentioned, the recharge, and I love like giving what you have. And I love that you mentioned, it being a support staff too, where other people are kind of charging other people up, which I think is very cool. And it speaks to what, sport can do for you, outside of the physical piece of it. And I know that kind of, touches on culture, which I know is one of John's favorite areas when it comes to team dynamics. So I think he might have some questions about that.
Yeah. You've mentioned just how much Coach Fisher has believed in you and has expressed that not only to you, but each individual athlete that has come to join Pitt, the amazing admin support staff of your athletic trainers and everything. It sounds like an amazing program. I think you specifically are in a really unique situation because you've done 5 years at Pitt, and I think Coach Fisher just wrapped up his 7th season there, right? He's teetering on 7-8, I think.
Yeah, I think it might even be this. I think this might be his 9th coming up. So yeah,
fall? Okay.
I believe so. Yeah, 7 or 8.
So you've been there for more than half of his stint at Pitt. Mm-hmm. What can you give some insight as to the type of culture that he has strived to create at Pitt that has made such a dynamic shift?
Yeah. Culture is something that is crucial for us. I think for any program, any club, any team, we talk about culture just about every single day. And we think it's really important to talk about culture every single day, because I think if you're not talking about the culture that you want, it's hard to create it. And so having that kind of like that repetitiveness, even if you feel maybe like you're going crazy, continuing to talk about the same things, it's so important. So we love talking about our culture as well. It's who we are. It's why we are successful, because we don't have a lot of athletes that came in being like top recruits. None of us are these huge recruits. Are we starting to get them out? Yes, which is so exciting. But the teams that we have had have not been these massive recruits, these just like crazy high school players. And so for us, all that we really had was our culture to kind of bring us that success. And so we have a lot of phrases, and we have like almost our own little languages. So I'll try to give as much as I can that I can think of off the top of my head, because there's just so many that we love and value. The first one, which is a big overarching one, kind of umbrellas a lot, but is just caring about one another. And it seems like it's so simple, like, oh yeah, you just care about the people you're around. Mm-hmm. But it goes a long way, and it starts with the coaching staff, and it's just so clear how much they care about us as individuals, and they care about us first as women, and second, or humans, and then second as athletes. And so they pour so much into us, into becoming, like, growing up. And, you know, we come in when we're 17, 18 years old, and we're leaving when we're 22. It's such a critical time of our lives. And they take that so seriously to really help us grow up. And so they care about our personal lives. They care about our love lives. They care about how we're doing in school. And if we're not doing in school, we will hear about it, not just from our parents, but from them as, like, they make sure, and we have so many resources. And so they make sure that we're doing well in school, that we're set up for success in that aspect. So they just care about us as individuals and not just athletes. And they just care about making us good people. Mm-hmm. And when you're around somebody so much, it's easy to this will lead into another one that we have we call it small conflicts. And so basically what that is, when you're working with a lot of women and girls, we tend to a lot of us tend to, like, bottle things up. And if anything is bugging us, we'll bottle it up. We'll go gossip about it to other girls on the team. And then it's this huge thing when really it was something so small at the beginning. But because we bottled it up, and because we went and talked about it with other girls and gossip, came this huge thing. So what we really strive to have, which is hard, and that we really have to practice, is we call it small conflicts. And so it's immediate talk. It's almost, and Fish talks about it, we try to replicate almost like a men's team in this aspect, because guys will just, if they don't like something, they'll hash it out right away. They'll fight about it. They might push each other, stuff like that, but they get it and they squash it, and then they're good. That is how we try to replicate it. Trust me, we're not getting in any kind of fights or anything, but when you're around girls all the time, you're bound to have some kind of drama. When not even just girls, when you're around anybody for that long, a group of people, you're bound to have some kind of drama, especially in college and just whatever. So we strive to have small conflicts on and off the court, and that comes with a lot of accountability. Another thing that we talk about, not taking things personally. If a lot of times holding each other accountable, we have to remember, comes from a place of, I know that you can get that ball up. That's why I'm telling you, you need to dig that ball. It's not, if I'm not going to say to you, hey, you need to dig that ball, if I don't think you can actually dig it. If you're missing balls that I know that you can't dig, that it's whatever, it's on to the next one. But if you're starting to miss hits, sets, digs, anything like that, then we're definitely going to hold each other accountable. It doesn't matter if you're a freshman. It doesn't matter if you're a fifth year. I love when the younger girls have held me accountable. I love it, because I see, like, the young leadership happening. It's easy. It's obviously easy for us older girls to be like, hey, pick up your slack, like, let's go, freshmen, type of thing. But I love when older or younger girls totally hold us accountable. It's necessary. So that's a couple things. So what I say, caring, small conflicts, accountability. We talk a lot about our norms and values. So who we are every single day, the things that we are valuing, the things that are normal to us. What is that day in and day out? Is it very normal for us to complain every single day? Or is it normal for us to get in 30 minutes early to practice every single day? And it's a balance of making sure that we're holding on to those norms and that we are valuing what we are doing. And And then the last thing I think that I'll talk about with culture that I love is the want to versus have to mentality. And so, because we've talked about it, it's a grind, right? We've talked about it. And so a lot of times sometimes if you let it turn into, I have to go to practice today, I have to go to lift at 7 a.m. this morning, and then I have to go to class, and then I have to go back to practice, and then I have to do treatment. It can easily turn into that. And so we think it's really important to just remind ourselves, I want to do this. I am here playing collegiate volleyball, or I am playing in high school. I am playing in club because I want to. Nobody is forcing you to be here, especially at the collegiate level. They are not forcing you to be here. There are so many kids that would love the opportunity to play at our level, you know? So, and at the end of the day, it is kind of a business. And so you have to want to be there. And so just to remind yourself, I love this. I really want to get better today. I really want to see my best friends today and hang out with my best friends today. I want to talk with the coaches today, things like that. And so when you kind of have that mindset shift, it adds a lot of value to your game, and it makes you a lot happier too, which is great. And that will make you a better volleyball player. And then I thought of one more thing that it'll be quick. With the to have to, but a lot of gratitude goes into doing what you love as well. And with the want to and have to, kind of along with the same thing of want to, but I'm so grateful that I have the opportunity to play at a Division I level school, a Power 5 school, a top 5 in the nation school. Like I am so thankful that I get to be around the people that I love today, that I'm following my dreams. And so to carry that gratitude with you is so important. And we talk really about gratitude on that big of a level, not just like, oh, thanks to our managers for shagging our balls. Of course, thanks to everybody that's doing their jobs. Thank you to my teammate for doing this. Like those are things that we say every single day. But it's also important to just have so much gratitude to be where you are right now.
Yeah. Big picture.
There's a lot that goes into creating a really good culture, and it's really hard. And it starts with the coaches, and then it just, you got to have people that then, lead into it and completely are 100% in with you. We call it the first followers. So you have your leaders, and then you have every leader needs followers. So you have your leaders, and then you need to have those first followers. They're so important. They're the first followers. It's for us, it's, like coaches, our leaders, for captains, we are your first followers. We are there. We have your back no matter what. And then the rest of the team will follow. For us as captains, for the girls, we are the leaders, and those leaders underneath us, those girls that naturally have the leading ability that aren't maybe captains yet, those are our first followers. And so you have to have that buy-in from just everybody.
Yeah. You basically hit the nail on the head there, because when it comes about talking about team culture, Jesse and I really believe that it's player-led buy-in is super important, because I totally believe that leadership and accountability and all those things, it absolutely comes from the top down. You have to have a program head that has a strong desire for these things too. But to an extent, it might be arguably that player-led buy-in could be more important than coach-led buy-in, because I'm not the one out on the court. I want to facilitate absolutely everything I possibly can for you as a coach, for you to succeed on and off the court. But if you don't want anything to do with it, that's really hard.
Totally.
So you smashed that. But are there any specific ways that Coach Fisher has given you as a captain or anything, given responsibilities, encouraged leadership, and opportunities to you as a player or other players throughout the season?
Totally. In so many ways, he has challenged me to be a better leader, not just this year, but from when I was a freshman. We talked about when she and I were freshmen, the coaches actually got rid of freshman, senior responsibilities, things like that, and everywhere in between. It was like, hey, there are no freshmen on this team. There are no seniors. Like everybody is a leader, and kind of from there, everybody's going to find your role. And so that helped me a lot as a freshman. I've naturally taken like leadership responsibilities, and it's natural for me to lead. But then, you're coming in as a freshman, and like I said, I wasn't doing that well and whatever. So it's like, hey, where do I see myself as a leader? Because that's something that I naturally gravitate towards. And so my leadership role has drastically changed. And when I was a freshman, my role was absolutely bringing like that freshman energy, that cheering no matter what, that talking, that just like that abandonment of like any kind of seriousness. And my role was like bringing the joy to it, bringing the life, like bringing any kind of like energy, good energy like that. And then as I got older, I knew that I wanted to, and I needed to take a more serious role. Not saying that role wasn't important, but I knew that I wanted to be more serious and take that more, like taking the accountability more serious, things like that, not such a happy-go-lucky approach. And so Fish and I have had a lot of discussions, and I had a great mentor, captain, when I was a freshman, Kamalani Akeo, who's now on our staff. And I love her dearly. She has taught me so much as well. She was very serious. She was very matter of fact. She was so intense. She was easily the hardest worker. There's no question that girl did not want to win every single game, every single point, every single practice. She was first one in, last one out. And so I was, as I was getting older, I was like, yeah, I want to have a similar role as to what Kama did as captain. And, you didn't mess with Kama, but you could tell how much people loved her, and we loved her because you could just tell how much she cared about the program by how hard she worked and how seriously she took it and how much she loved the game. And so as myself, I wanted to kind of find a happy medium, and I love volleyball, and I showed that through the passion that I play with, but I also wanted to have maybe a little bit more respect, or maybe a little bit more like accountability and just seriousness to my leadership, and kind of find a happy medium. And so Fish just pushed me in a lot of ways, and he had to help me in a lot of ways of taking on that more serious role. I had a hard time holding girls accountable. I had a hard time saying to girls, hey, you need to be better off the court, on the court. You need to figure your life out. You need to stop partying, things like that. I had a hard time with that because as a freshman, I wanted to be best friends with everybody. I wanted to like have everybody love me, things like that. And I thought that the right way to do that was just kind of try to be happy all the time and embrace that. But in a more responsible way, I wanted to take on then that next step. And I had a hard time having to tell girls to be better, or, which the older girls naturally kind of take on. It's easier when you're older to just tell the younger girl, hey, get up, type of thing. So he helped me a lot there. He also just helped me a lot through COVID. It was really hard to be a leader during COVID because when we were like back home and everybody was home, it was hard to be a leader when you have no idea what people are doing at home for 6 months, when they could just be doing nothing. They could be out every day. They could be whatever. So we had a lot of conversations throughout then, and just how we can make the team better. And we did weekly, bi-weekly, 3 times a week Zoom calls all the time. The coaches did a great job, and they brought in guest speakers every single week through their connections. And through their connections, it was amazing. We had Olympians, we had just crazy connections that they would just come and talk to us every week, and that we would learn from them. So and then as I would say, just as a leader, that he taught me really throughout all those hard times that I have to lead by example at the end of the day. And if we're going to win a national championship, or if winning a national championship is our goal, you have to embody that. And so that is a lot of what I practiced and worked on.
That's cool. I like the training up aspect, like those senior captains taking on and seeing leadership responsibilities, or just like the spark of leadership within you as a freshman, and connecting early, and then your turning point to, I want to take this more seriously. Like you become the reason that culture lives on and extends itself, and that's really cool. That's sweet. We just had at my local high school that I coach at, we kind of just had a massive culture shift. We had our 6 seniors come together during their junior year, and they were like, we kind of want to flip, our high school program on its head and change it completely about how you feel about yourself when you walk into the gym, and how you leave, and the very like, I get to come to practice today mentality. And so I always commend them. I think they did an awesome job of laying the groundwork down to move forward to change the culture for the better. And us as coaches really wanted that to happen too. So we got our first followers, which was really cool to see.
Super cool. I love it.
Yeah. So it's not drama, but being a 5th-year player, you had 2 really unique and influential transfers that came in this past season and helped you out. Lekator Member-Mene, did I get that name right?
Yeah.
I know the announcers, they call her Lek, which I think is awesome.
Yeah.
From Missouri, crazy outside, super fun to watch.
Yep.
And then Serena Gray from like rival Penn State. I don't know how you felt about that when you heard that come through the lines and like chain of command, but like, what was it like integrating them both into your culture and system?
Well, first, they are just lovely people. They're both actually my roommates, and I love them dearly. And
Cool.
So they're just, they integrated so smoothly because, one, they're obviously amazing at volleyball, and that is helpful in its own, but they are just also, I think, even more important, they are really good people. And they came on, they are so sweet. They are battlers, they're warriors. Oh my gosh, they're competitive. And so they really were just like the best gets ever, honestly, in all aspects of the world. They care so much about volleyball. And they were both coming from experiences where they didn't quite get the love that we receive being players at Pitt. They didn't quite get all that caringness of us as human beings instead of athletes first. Whereas at Pitt, you are like loved and adored by the people that you are around. And so they didn't quite have that experience. And so coming here was, I think, also really special for them in that aspect. But so with Lek, she's so bubbly. If you guys should definitely have a conversation with her. She's so easy to chat with. She's super bubbly. Bubbly is like the perfect word, but then you put her on the court and she's just like this beast, and she's an ultimate hype woman as well. And so it was really cool. This is actually for both of them. It's been really, really cool to watch them come into the program and just be like completely buy in to what we are preaching here, and their transformation as players and as people have been so cool to watch. Especially, you see it with freshmen all the time, but for transfers to have that experience too has been really special because, they've kind of been jaded by their experiences and they're older. It's definitely going to be harder for them to come in with like just complete open eyes and things like that. But they did, and they just have grown so much, and it's been cool to see how they spoke about volleyball and how they had their experiences at where they were to now how they speak about volleyball and like the love that they have for it. I think has been really cool. My experience with Serena is actually we grew up playing at the same club together. So I had a little insider on her transferring. She played on the same team as my cousin, who's a year younger than me. And so a couple weeks before she entered that portal, I got a little text. And so as you can imagine, I was on that right away. And so called the coaches right away. I was like, I have some tea for you. And so which they of course loved. I told them right away. I was like, I know her from club. She's sweet. She's a hard worker. She's she's obviously a really good volleyball player, and I think that she can get even better, especially coming to Pitt. So of course they're all about it. The second she entered the portal, they reached out, and I know she was deciding between a couple other schools, and I was talking to her a lot, but trying not to, step on too many toes of hers, but doing the best I could to be like, Serena, you're going to love it here, all this stuff. And so then when she committed, I just knew that it was going to be the absolute best thing for her mentally, physically, volleyball, life-wise, everything. And I commend her for her courage going from Penn State to Pitt. That is not an easy thing to do in Pennsylvania. Luckily for us being from California, we don't see it as that big of a deal, but we know how much of a big deal it is here in Pennsylvania. And so, so I definitely commend her for that, because that was courageous for sure. So with her transfer, I knew immediately when she announced that, I was like, okay, I posted it right away. I was like, Pitt volleyball just got a lot better. And so with them transferring have been huge success to our program, and amazing people as well outside of volleyball. So it's been really special to bring them on in all aspects.
That's awesome. I mean, Member Monet is just, she's such a dynamic and physical player. So I think she complements your play style really, really well. Just being both super strong, dynamic, playing bigger than you are type mentality players on the pin. And then Gray just has such an X factor at the net, like defensively from that line. It just like took you guys up to another level. So that was epic to see. Love that. And like, how juicy was it to like beat Penn State? Like, was she like, oh my gosh, this is amazing type?
She had very conflicting feelings, because she obviously had so much intent to beat them. She also has a couple, those for old teammates that does have love for. However, so there were a couple, mixed emotions there. She was excited to see some of her old teammates that she loves, and, then had like a cry with them afterwards when they were crying when their season was done. But at the same, a couple of us had to talk to Serena. I had to be like, Serena, like I kind of had to have a sit down with her and just make sure, like, hey, like, we're playing Penn State, like, whatever, are you gonna bring it, or are you gonna whatever? What are your feelings about it? She was like, oh no. She's like, and I'm gonna start smack talking, and I'm gonna be doing stare downs. She was like, you don't have to worry about me. I was like, all right, I just want to make sure that your head is on straight with this. And then, but then I wanted to make sure also, like, are you gonna be too amped to where you're just like freaking out and you forget how to play volleyball too amped? But she did. I mean, she just did amazing, and it was a lot of fun for her, and she definitely had some sass in there, and it was a fun match, and it was special for all of us as well, being on her team now, to just be like, yeah, we kind of snagged Serena from you, and we know that we made her better, and we know that she's better for coming to us than staying. So we were really happy to have Serena on our side during that match for sure, and every other match as well.
Yeah, well, that's great to hear, not only from a volleyball standpoint, but that it sounds like she got what she needed off the court as well, which in my book is far more important. So that's awesome. I don't have anything else related to that. Jesse, did you want to hop down to the end, future lifelong teammate mentors and such?
I mean, hearing your whole story has just been incredible, and I think there's so many elements through your journey through volleyball that's probably provided a lot of insight for athletes who are looking to pursue the sport further, but also just a lot of the takeaways from like a mindset standpoint. I think so much of that is transferable, and just some of the different, especially when you're talking about culture, like there are just so many things in there that can be transformative for people, like just from a lifestyle perspective. And I just think that that's amazing. And it sounds like volleyball has done so much for you, off the court. And it sounds like within Coach Fisher, you have such a mentor there, and you mentioned some other people. Tell us a little bit about kind of like what's to come for you. I mean, through those connections, through what you're currently pursuing, education-wise at Pitt, what's kind of the next steps for you?
Yeah, you're totally spot on. Like, coming to Pitt has been an absolutely life-changing experience in more ways than just, I think, going to college. Going to college alone is going to be life-changing, but just the growth that I have had here and the relationships that I have had made here are truly lifelong. And I don't just say that lightly, but like the coaches, they will be in my lives forever. We are part of their family. We are part of their kids' lives. And then the girls, the teammates that have come before me, we keep in contact all the time. We still have all of our like old Snapchats that we use, bringing up like all the memories, things like that. And so I know that that's how it will be too once I leave and the girls are here, and it just continues. But for me currently, I'm currently back in Pittsburgh. I was home for about a month and a week or so after the tournament. And I just completely like decompressed. I did just about nothing during that for the kind of the first time in my life since starting volleyball, especially since starting in college, just doing just about nothing besides hanging out with family and walking my dog and things like that, and enjoying the California sunshine. But I'm back in Pittsburgh now to finish my master's degree. I am finishing my master's in applied developmental psychology, which is in the School of Education. I love this program. It's all about the psychology of kids growing up, specifically kids that could be at risk of developmental issues. So I'm loving it. So it's kind of one of the first times in my life that I've loved school this much. I've always said I definitely went to college for volleyball and school second, which isn't the best way to go about it. My parents get mad at me when I say that, but it's true. I didn't know what I wanted to do when I started college. I didn't ever have like a educational path. I had no idea what I wanted to do, and volleyball was something that I was always sure about once I really dove into it and once I knew that this could be a career. So I'm finishing that. I'll graduate with that in April. I will continue training with the team and the girls this spring, practicing, working out with them, staying in shape so that I can start playing professionally this upcoming year. Yeah, so I will be signing with an agent within the next week or two. Whenever this is posted, I might already be with an agent by then. And then we'll be looking to sign with a team, hopefully within the next 2 or 3 months, hopefully earlier than that. And then graduate, probably go back to California, move out of Pittsburgh, move out of my Pittsburgh apartment, ship it all home. And then late summer, early fall is when I will, God willing, be moving overseas and starting kind of a life out there.
Do you have any top countries that you really want to start your professional career in?
No, nowhere that I'm dying to go. There's definitely a decent amount on the table that I would be so happy going. I am someone that I think I would love to try so many different places and be like adaptable to so many different places and just see so many different cultures and stuff. So I don't have an answer for that quite yet. I don't see for those that know, Italy and Turkey in pro are kind of the top countries to go to. I've kind of turned those countries down for my rookie years. I unfortunately don't see myself being successful at that level for my rookie years of playing pro. I would love to build into those years if I want to continue playing for years and years to come. Who knows? But I would love to rather build into there than kind of be thrown in there. And kind of that's the advice that I have been given thus far, and I think that's realistic for me. And so countries that are kind of in the shuffle are like France, Germany, Switzerland, Poland, kind of places that are really competitive in pro volleyball, but probably not as cutthroat as going to somewhere like Italy or Turkey.
Cool. Nice.
Yeah.
Well, whenever you find yourself back in the States, you have a roster spot on our women's adult national team here in the United States if you want to play on our squad.
Yeah, awesome. Whenever.
Nice. That's awesome. Jesse, or Kayla first, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about or mention before we wrap things up here?
I told you guys this before, but I love what you two are doing for club athletes and high school athletes. I totally wish that I had like this kind of resource to me when I was younger. There's a lot of unknowns when you're going to play a collegiate sport, and kind of having this resource gives you a little bit more insight into the craziness of it. And so I just love that you guys are doing this. And then if I could give any piece of advice to like college or club aged and high school aged girls, it would just be to enjoy where you are in the present and to just completely throw yourself into whatever you're doing in that moment, and enjoy your family time, enjoy going to high school practices, driving around with your friends, enjoy all those little things. And then when you get to college, just enjoy that and throw yourself into that, and being in the present and being grateful for where you are is so, so important, especially in this day of age where kind of a lot of it is constantly thinking of, okay, kind of like, where am I going? What am I doing? Whereas there's so much value to just taking in and being grateful for all that you've done and accomplished thus far to kind of keep you going in the future. So thank you guys so much for having me. I've loved this.
Yeah, your stories have been incredible. And just even that last piece, I wish I could go back in time and be a younger athlete and hear that. I mean, that is just the value in that is, I mean, the value in you taking the time to speak with us in general has just been incredible. But the value in that last statement and so many of the other takeaways have been really incredible. And I hope everyone's, really taking it to heart, because this is someone that has, been able to compete at such a high level while still placing value on so many other, really important pieces of life. We love this sport, but we are not this sport, like we are people. And I think that everything that you said just kind of echoed that. And it has just been truly a privilege to hear you talk about it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot. If we can ever be a soundboard for you, or if at any point you want to do anything else with us or team up in any possible way, we would love to do that with you again. And thank you for your kind words. We love doing this, and we realize that we have experienced very little, like it just a different perspective of what volleyball, the sport, has been able to do for us as athletes and individuals. And again, it's awesome to hear your story, to see how volleyball has molded that, molded you as an athlete and as a person, because I totally believe that the purpose extends far beyond the court. So yeah, thanks so much again. This is awesome. Last chance for anybody else. Anything else? Final thoughts, words.
Hail to Pitt.
Hail to Pitt, baby. Let's go.
That's true. Hail Pitt.
We are Pitt, ride or die for sure now.
I love it.
Nice. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. You'll be able to catch this on Buzzsprout, Podbean, Spotify. We will also have this up on YouTube. We will definitely make sure to shout out Daniel Strong again once we post this on Instagram. Kayla, thank you again so much for taking the time to doing this. You have no idea how much this means to us. We hope that our listeners enjoyed it as much as we do. I guess here's till next time, honestly, because I'm sure we'll be in touch.
Yeah. Let's go.
Awesome. See you later. Boom.